as of today is an independent candidate for Cooney County Sheriff, and I did not receive any correspondence from him. And I'm going to tell you why this is so important that I had to have this forum. Is because when there is accusations, especially of criminal wrongdoing against elected officials, and in this case, one of them happens to be your sheriff, it potentially can erode at the trust and confidence that you all have in me. And I will not allow that to happen. You can say anything you want. You know what? I don't care. You can say whatever you want. But when you start throwing criminal accusations at the chief law enforcement officer in the county, and I spend a lot of time, our organization spends a lot of time earning your trust. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. I am not going to allow that. And yes, and also, of course, the commissioner. As an elected official, he and she and they have been entrusted by you to lead this county and to represent this county from you to people. So it's very, very critically important that when these accusations fly, and I ignored them for a long time, but when they became criminal, then I said it's time. Then I said it's time. So, is Dan Wilson in the building? Anybody see Dan Wilson? Because I would like for Dan Wilson, if he is here, to be able to respond to these accusations that we are going to show you. But I don't see Mr. Wilson here tonight. Mr. Bushling, would you mind coming up and providing a standard oath that is used in many courts in these great United States bars?
Is this mic on?
Yep.
Gentlemen, this is related to the comments that you will make here tonight, the statements that you will make, the items that you will present, and any other items that you present other than documents. So basically everything that you say here or present here tonight. So if you would both raise your right hands. Each of you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Each of you swear that all items presented here tonight are factual documents without editing or altering of any kind. Yes. Do each of you swear that all items presented here tonight were obtained through lawful means and or without duress, intimidation, or retaliation?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you.
All right, then, yeah, you know what, yeah, let's sit up here. All right, where is our computer? Okay. All right, well, then we're going to go ahead and, oh, you know what? Can you describe, Mr. Bushling, a little bit about your experience and tell the crowd a little bit about yourself?
I've been a dentist 40 years. Get a second. I'll try to do it. How's that? Okay. Like I said, it's tough to condense 40 years into 10 seconds. I'll try to do it. I'm a lawyer. Don't hold me to 10 seconds. I practiced law for, like I said, almost 40 years, 3 months shy of that. I was a prosecutor for over 36 of those years. I believe that the reason I'm here tonight is a lot of lawyers don't have a lot of experience with evidence. They're, for example, craft wills, they're corporate lawyers. They never go to court. I've actually spoken to some attorneys who practiced for decades and been to court maybe once. So what I did as a lawyer was almost every day was looking at police reports, speaking to witnesses, and applying the rules of evidence to what they had to say to determine whether or not I could, number one, bring charges, and whether or not it was something that could be proven in court. So to do that, I had to think in terms of burdens of proof and types of evidence. There are different types of evidence. There's a witness to an event, for example, via a type of evidence, but you could also have a videotape of the event. Those two types of evidence have different weights. One is a little bit more trustworthy than another. So those are the kinds of things I did every day, and so those skills will be brought here tonight to review what we're doing. In terms of burdens of proof, one of the things that we learned in law school, and that we just learned from fundamental fairness in debate class, and that is if you're going to bring an accusation against someone, especially of a serious nature, of the type that we've seen here, you should have some proof. In preparation for tonight, and I have nothing against Mr. Wilson, I don't know him, I've never met him, but I tried to find out what his proof was for the allegations, and I was unable to find any. So I do go in with a little bit of a bias here tonight, but I'm going to try and be as fair as I can and see what we've got here tonight. Thank you very much.
And to be fair, Mr. Bushling, you and I, have we socialized together? I don't know if you're married or not, but have you and your spouse and me and my spouse ever socialized privately?
As a disclaimer here, I have never socialized with the sheriff. I spoke with him until tonight, probably over the last 3 years, maybe 15 minutes. I'm not even sure most of the time he knew who I was, other than somebody on the street saying, "You're running for sheriff." As regards Mr. Mattare, he and I met on a commission, I think about 3 years ago, the Alternate Forms of Government Commission. Some of you may have attended some of those hearings. We are not friends. I would say we are friendly. We see each other, we talk, but we've never done anything socially together.
And you were not asked to compromise your ethics, or you were not paid for tonight, is that correct?
Correct, and in fact, I did state that I was going to be as fair as I could, and I had basically no dog in this fight.
All right, let's go with allegation number 1. All right, so Idaho State Statute 18-2202. Any person who knowingly and without authorization uses, accesses, or attempts to access any computer system, computer network described in section 18-2201, which basically is a list of any and all computer systems that a government entity or private entity would have. Or in Idaho code, or any computer software program, documentation, data contained in such computer systems, or computer network commits a computer crime. So, this is an Idaho state statute, and this is generally a misdemeanor. Next slide. Whoever embezzles, steals, purloins, or knowingly converts to his use or the use of another without authority, sells, conveys, or disposes of any record, voucher, money, or thing of value in the United States or any department or agency thereof, or any property made or being made under the contract. And that's where our systems touch, under the contract. So, this would be because we have our systems go to the NCIC, National Crime Information Center, and also we have to mandatory report to the FBI. So we have connectivity with the United States agency. So I guess the way that I interpret things is, if you're a conservative Republican, you're probably going to get charged with a felony. If you're a liberal Democrat, you're probably going to get nothing charged, and you're probably going to say, "Good job, keep doing it." But that's the difference between a misdemeanor in a state statute and a felony, because a system touches a United States government system. All right.
I've already spoken about Bob Norris giving this special deputy status to Bruce Mattare, who has never gone through any kind of a police academy, yet he now has police powers. He was, of course, Bob's former campaign manager and now newest county commissioner. And yet, there's supposed to be a separation of powers, and I'm not seeing that between the county commissioner's office and the sheriff's office. And that should concern all of us. Bruce now has access to information, police power type of information, that you and I don't have access to, and he can use that information against his political opponents. I've had several speaking engagements recently where Bruce has shown up, and he's used some information that I'm kind of curious as to where he obtained that from. You see, if they can do this to me, they can do it to any of their political opponents. And Bob Norris is facilitating this. It's below the belt. It should be considered to be improper, bad policy. And I think that Bob should immediately pull the special deputization, and the citizens of Cooney County should demand it. We do not want the joining of powers between any of the three branches here locally, and we sure as heck don't want a current elected official having access to stuff that only police have access to. What do you guys think about that? Are you okay with Bruce having the special deputization?
Yes.
All right, go ahead and pause it there. Now, if you can go back to it real quick. Okay.
I've already spoken about.
So, there's a couple of different elements in here that I would like to briefly discuss. And he concludes that video by saying that Bruce has asked him questions about information and he's curious where it came from. And he also says if they can do that to me, he concludes that Bruce did access this information because they can do it to anybody. So, Bruce, Mr. Bruce Mattare, do you have any police powers?
No, I do not.
Okay, so I have 325 special deputies on the Cooney County Sheriff's Office. Most of them are law enforcement, although I run about 15 or so a year that don't have law enforcement. Bruce has a business degree, an MBA in business, and an undergraduate in marketing. Bruce knows the pulse of this community very, very well. It was presented to me by a previous undersheriff, which was Dan Mattis, and he says, hey, this is not uncommon for somebody to be working with the sheriff that has a great understanding and their pulse on the community as a special deputy, because we will be dealing with sensitive information. I swear in attorneys to do outside investigations for us. And that attorney needs to have the power to compel employees to speak. I have special deputized when the F-35s came. Everybody remember when the F-35s came? We did a special status with many members of the Marine League. I recently special deputized 4 firefighters from Northern Lakes. I also did deputize a young man that gave more to this organization than we would ever get from him. And he gave a lot to this organization. So, I have 325. Yes, I do confide on, I don't do politics very good. I'm going to be very honest with you. I feel like I know the community and this organization really, really good. I feel like law enforcement's really good. But does Bruce assist me in some of the political stuff? Yes, he does. And do we have a unwritten non-disclosure agreement that I have spoken to him? Because every single one of a special deputy gets this particular piece of paper, and I give the duties of that special deputy assignment, such as the F-35 group when it came. So, no, Bruce does not have any type of police powers. Bruce, I have a couple other questions to ask. Have you ever asked anybody on the sheriff's office to obtain information on anybody?
Never.
Have you ever paid anybody to obtain information from anybody on the sheriff's office?
Never.
Was there a public records request submitted with your name on it? And then I'm going to give this public records request to Mr. Bushman. And he's going to read what it is and read what it says.
So do you all understand what a public records request is? Okay, it sounds like most of you do. Title of this document is Kootenai County Sheriff's Office Public Records Request Form. Date 2/14/24. Name Bruce Mattare. Mailing address, telephone number. I am requesting to copy or to examine certain records of the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office which may be identified as follows. Date and time of incident, 01 to 01/21, to present. Okay, January 1/21 to present. Address or location of incident, 5500 North Government Way. Login, password, and credentials does Bruce Mattare have at the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office? The box checked here is unable to respond for one or more of the following reasons. Record not known to exist.
Okay, record not known to exist. So, Bruce Mattare, had anybody done a public records request, you would have found that Bruce Mattare doesn't have a login, it doesn't have any access, nor do any of our special deputies have any access to any law enforcement applications or software programs at the Sheriff's Office. Now, in this accusation, let me back up a minute. Mr. Mattare, have you asked candidate Wilson a question on this campaign trail?
Yes, I asked him one time when he was speaking at Pachyderms last month.
And can you tell us just briefly on what the incident and what the paper that you referred to was?
Well, I'd asked him if he had ever lied to or misled any law enforcement officer, yes or no. And he gave an evasive answer initially. And so after that, I read a police report that was provided to us, to you, and then me, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, where it basically discussed how he was evasive and not answering direct questions to the responding deputies that showed up for the call for service, where his neighbor actually called them to show up because of intimidation or something like that.
So, for the purpose of this particular accusation, you've only asked him that one question as it pertains to any type of official police document, and that was the question?
Yes.
Okay. And he suggested, based on his audio, that Bob Norris and Bruce Mattare conspired to give him access to protected information so he could use against political opponents. So, for that to occur, we would have to, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office would have to have connectivity to the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Bushman, I'd like to give you a public records request. Can you please tell the audience?
This is the same type of document that was just referred to previously. It's directed to our Robert Norris. Provide the name of the law enforcement application / system that the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office has direct access or connectivity to police reports or logs from the Spokane County Sheriff's Office or Spokane Police. That was March 4th of this year. The response, unable to respond for one or more of the following reasons, record not known to exist.
The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office does not have any connectivity for police reports and log information from the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. Period. Now, I did receive a correspondence from Mr. Wilson, and it had to do with a cease and desist. And it had to do with a public records request that he submitted to the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. Boy, Washington's a little bit, we do it in one page. They have like about a 6-page. So, Mr. Bushling, I'm going to show you this public records request from the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. I received this in an email, and if you could just say what it, look at it and say that it appears to be an official document.
Yeah, this looks like it's an email with an attachment of the official correspondence with the sheriffs of Spokane.
And then if you look on, and you don't have to say the person's name, but if you just say if you just say the first name there of the person who requested this document.
Lisa.
Okay. And based on the last name, do you think that would be more likely affiliated with Bruce Mattare, Bob Norris, or Dan Wilson? Based on her last name.
It's Lisa Wilson.
Okay. So, Bruce Mattare, Bob Norris, we did not request any information from the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Wilson is not here to provide us any documentation to prove or disprove his video. So, I have a question for you, Mr. Bushling. Based on what you were able to see on video, and based on our statements, and based on the evidence provided to you, does this prove or disprove the allegation that Mr. Wilson is making towards us?
It doesn't seem to me to form any type of foundation for the claims that he made. I would like to add one other thing, only because he used the term separation of powers. I just thought it was important to address that because he is making an allegation that because Commissioner Mattare and the sheriff have some status where they speak frequently, apparently, that is somehow a violation of the separation of powers. And I just want everyone to be clear that that is not even close to violating the Separation of Powers Act. That is what the separation of powers was directed to keep one government entity, legislative, judicial, executive, from doing the function of another government entity. There's nothing wrong, however, with the members of the different entities with collaborating. That's how work gets done. Hopefully I answered that question.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to allegation number 2. Mr. Wilson is claiming on many different platforms that I have 100% disability. Well, I did not know that. He is also claiming that I make $180,000 a year, and he's also claiming that 50% of that is tax-free. All of those allegations are false. And there it is on one of his social media platforms. And I think we have another documentation of Bob Norris is on 100% Lacera disability and have never disclosed this to Cooney County residents. Well, Mr. Bushman, I would like for you to take a look at 2 documents and tell the folks in the audience here what they are. And
one is a document from Roger Sohn, a medical doctor. This is regarding the sheriff. It says medical reevaluation. And it says combining all impairments, the right shoulder is rated at 12% impairment, whole person.
so I have a 12% rating on my right shoulder? Okay. And, I have to look at it. And now, can you look at the other document here? The quarterly orders on the back of it.
These are apparently settlement documents regarding, oh, I'm sorry, it's left shoulder and elbow.
Yep. And then what is the disability rating on the left shoulder?
13%.
Okay. So I have 13% on this shoulder, 12% on this shoulder. What do those mean? Those means that any future injuries, any future surgeries, the 2 insurance companies work it out to how much that insurance company is going to pay versus how much this insurance company is going to pay. I am nowhere near, even if you add both of them up, not 100% disabled. But he claims this on many different platforms. So, Mr. Bushman, based on what documentation you have, does this appear to prove or disprove Mr. Wilson's allegation that I am 100% disabled?
First of all, considering the documents that you gave me, you're clearly not 100% disabled. And again, we have a situation in which an allegation was made. I would think that if an allegation were going to be made, someone would have proof of it. I don't know where, I would really like to know where he gets the information that there's a 100% disability. And I don't mean to be partisan here, but I think it's important if you're going to make allegations that you be able to prove them. And I haven't seen anything in what he said or what I'm reading here that there is a basis to that allegation. He may have it, but I haven't seen it.
Let's go to allegation number 3. Go ahead and play the video.
I'm not going to entertain the question, Bruce, but Bruce likes to try
Hey, you know what? Can we stop it just for a second?
Let them answer the question. You made a comment.
All right, go ahead. Continue, please.
I'm not going to entertain the question, Bruce, because Bruce likes to try that. Let them answer the question.
You made a comment that you are a huge fan of law enforcement, which I think is great. So my question to you is, have you ever lied to or misled another law enforcement officer? Yes or no?
I recall.
Okay, so that's them.
I said, I'm not recall.
Okay, interesting response.
I mean, do you remember everything you've ever said to anybody at any time?
I know what I have said. You're right. Do you have a government record?
I do.
Okay. So this is what's interesting, is that after you already identified yourself as a reserve police officer, a deputy pedal bar with the Spokane County Police came up.
I know this one, and you're not going to tell the whole story on that one.
Well, I'll tell you what he said. Okay, what he said
And
was,
just for the record,
What you
just
said.
for the record, I was never disciplined. That report was seconded, and my sergeants talked with me, and there was no disciplinary action.
well, here's what the deputy said. I asked him again, if he was currently carrying a gun.
I was on my own property.
Daniel's response was, not anymore. Now I just asked you if you're carrying a gun, you said yes. I told Daniel that I didn't care for his evasive answers. Well, he gave me an evasive.
Was I charged with a crime, Bruce?
I was asking yes or no questions, and he was looking around, he less than direct responses, like the criminals we investigate. This is not my words, this is the
Well, I understand, I'm very well with that report.
Something of Daniel's posture or facial looks caused me to walk around my car and move within 10 feet of Daniel and ask again. It's the third time, then you got it on. This time, Daniel said, yeah, and started reaching back with his hand as if to show to me or possibly to raise the jacket. I told Daniel to keep his hands away from the gun. Now, if you're a huge fan of law enforcement, and when you interact with them, you mislead them. So how can you lead them?
So I'm going to make a statement here and say that not all police reports are accurate.
So law enforcement officers lie.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so they lie.
No,
If you're going to say that the supporting deputy there, he goes, I conferred with Deputy Elbrock after the contact with the informant that when he interviewed Daniel Wilson during the contact, that Wilson admitted as they were speaking, he was in fact armed with a gun after giving an impression that he had only earlier been wearing it. That's not a different question.
The question at the time was I wearing a service weapon? And that is what he did not report. I had a 38 pistol on my person, but I was on my own personal property. They were responding to a neighborhood call on my property.
Three times you were asked that question, and only the third time.
That's according to him. I'm going to say that he's a liar. And I will say that.
The law enforcement officers are like,
You might have a different story.
Remember that my sergeants, nobody ever wrote me up for.
Well, you are a trained police officer, and so it doesn't make any sense whatsoever why you moved forthright with the very first question.
I was.
Well,
So I'm going to beg your comment. Again, was that a criminal charge? Was there a criminal charge? Was that an error report?
It's about character, about how you respond to questions with fellow law enforcement officers. That's what it really is.
Well, I don't have that.
And that's why you were evasive when I asked you that question. I said, have you ever lied to one? You said, well, I never recall. But you said you were aware of this report. So you clearly did that, and you didn't want to bring that up. Okay? And that's my point, is that it's the evasiveness. It's the way you behave, even though you are supposed to be the one who we trust. To give us honest,
Is that
straightforward.
like the sheriff lying to a
okay, now, this is what this is what Dan Wilson is accusing Bruce Mattare in that first video that he obtained this particular report through protected databases that him and I conspired. This is the incident that we're talking about. So, this one is we have one deputy sheriff from the Spokane County Sheriff's Office that says, first yellow box, he says, Dan Wilson says, I had been earlier. The second, he asks him again, he says, not anymore. And then the third time, he finally says, yes, I am. Now, here's where he's lying to each and every one of you. How many law enforcement officers, retired or off the job, do we have in this room right now? All right, I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick one that I hope I don't know, I've never met, and or I don't socialize with. Can you raise your hands one more time? And I don't even know what camp they're in. You, sir. When you responded to a call for service, and you asked somebody if they were armed, did you care if it was their issued firearm that the department gave them, or did you care if it was a different firearm, or it didn't matter, you want to know whether they were armed?
It didn't matter.
Thank you. It did not matter. However, here he says, well, no, the deputy asked me if it was my service revolver. That is not reasonable. He is lying to each and every one of you right now, based on that video. So, not only do we have a deputy sheriff, Deputy Edelbrock, that says this is what happened, we have substantiated evidence from another deputy who was there, and he heard Deputy Edelbrock ask Wilson if he was armed. So this is what we have. This is what we call a substantiated allegation. It's not just one person's word against another. This is substantiated from one peace officer to another. And also, under the laws of the state of Washington, that all statements made herein are true and accurate, and that I am entering my authorized user ID and password to authenticate. So, I submit to you on this one that when Mr. Wilson says the deputies were liars, this is a substantiated claim. And I don't know this gentleman here. However, he says, we don't care when we go to a call for service what kind of firearm or who issued it. We want to know if you're armed. And we would have expected a clear, concise answer because he put everybody in jeopardy at that call for service. All right, let's go to the next one. This is something I also did not know about myself. My goodness. Did Sheriff Norris spend most of his career working under Homeland Security? Let's play it.
I'd be a big supporter. I don't have a lot of confidence though, because Bob Morris has spent most of his career when he was at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office being a DHS, dude. So he's working under Homeland Security. He's got a lot of tight ties with his federal counterparts. And I think that in Cooney County, that's kind of a dangerous thing. We want a delineation between somebody that's spent a lifetime working hand in hand with the feds versus somebody that can...
My goodness. All right. I had a 30-year career with a small county south of Boise called Los Angeles. Yes, I did. I admit it. I did not know that I spent over half of that career, or 16 years, at Homeland Security, or on a task force to combat terrorism. That's right. So, here's what really happened. After 9/11, local law enforcement, we went to the FBI and we said, hey, enough is enough. You are not in a position to know what the radical imams are in our community. You're not positioned for it. You're not the best agency to handle it. You are more on a national level. We want access to know who these radical imams are and what mosques are radicalized and which mosques are not. We went to them to say, this is enough. So yes, I did. What other entity, for 3 years, mind you, okay, this was a 3-year assignment. It wasn't 16 years. This was a 3-year assignment where we fought counterterrorism in the Central District of California. It was not a 16-year career. I did it for 3 years, and we had a pretty good track record. We took a lot of people to jail. Most of it had to do with supporting counterterrorism activity, counterfeit purses and jeans and things like that. But I did not have a 16-year career with any federal agency. I am not a fan of the public corruption unit of the FBI. I'm not a fan of many of the FBI. So that is 100% for sure. All right. Now, let's go ahead and look at this one. False and deceptive advertising. There's a definition that the Federal Trade Commission says that A representation, omission, or practice is deceptive if it is likely to mislead consumers acting reasonably under the circumstances and is material to consumers. That is, it would likely affect the consumer's conduct or decisions with regard to a product or service. In determining whether an advertisement, including its format, misleads the consumers. Now, Dan Wilson calls himself the Idaho Sheriff. There's a county in Idaho called Idaho. He's never been the Idaho Sheriff in Idaho County. He's never been employed by a sheriff's office in the state of Idaho. However, on many of his social media platforms, on his websites, you will find the Idaho Sheriff. This is deceptive. He is not an employee, nor has he ever been an employee. He wants you and the voters to think, oh, I must be the current Idaho Sheriff. Or, I'm employed by a sheriff's office. Based on what we saw here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I wouldn't hire Dan Wilson to pick up laundry at the jail. He has only been a volunteer. He has never been a full-time paid officer. The question was, his experience, has he only been a volunteer? Yes. He states that he has only been a volunteer. He has never been a full-time peace officer, never been a deputy sheriff in a jail, never been a deputy sheriff in patrol, never been a field training officer, never worked detectives, never been a sergeant, never been a lieutenant, never been a department head. And there's a comment that says third time trying to get a job. I don't know. I don't know that. All I know, what is up here is factual. So, I will be more than happy. Is there anything else that I may have missed on any of these? Oh, we have something else. We added one, yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, on or about October the 10th, 2023, Dan Wilson submitted what we call a C1, Appointment and Certification of a Political Treasurer. And he submitted that, and he has been running as a Republican for the nomination of sheriff in the state of Idaho, the county of Kootenai. Go ahead and, do we have that video?
No, not the video.
No video? So, as of last week, he sent a video on one of his platforms stating that he wants money. That please help me, that everybody's against me and I need money and to be very generous. That was a week ago. Yesterday, Dan Wilson switched his party from Republican to Independent. So, I have to tell you that it was about 2 weeks ago that part of our campaign team, we started to think. And we just thought, there's just something that's strange here. He doesn't appear to be campaigning for votes. He's for every one vote he gets, he turns off 20 people. And I just get this a lot in this community. There is something else that is driving this, and I don't know what it is. be more factual. And, but it is disingenuous for somebody just a few days ago to ask for money as a Republican when we believe that we saw some signs, some symptoms that he was likely going to go independent. And sure enough, last night or this morning, people started texting me and what have you. Yes, sir.
One of the things that stands out to me is he's got a video out there where he's talking about this special deputy status. And he says, and Sheriff Norris did not offer it to the other commissioners. How does he know? How does he know what the sheriff offered or didn't offer to the other commissioners? And so what I would argue is that you need to start looking at how is he getting this information? Who's giving him this information? How would a guy who just moved here 3 years ago have access to videos of Bob Norris when he was running for sheriff 4 years ago? He was living over in Washington then. He was busy being a volunteer. How does a guy like this move here 3 years ago and have these access to these videos from 4 years ago, and then know whether or not commissioners are being offered special deputy status? There's only 2 other commissioners. So I think these are the kind of questions that need to be determined and understood as to who is actually behind this guy. Who is giving him this information? He's so new to the community. No one's ever heard of him until he announced that he was running for sheriff. I've never heard of him. I've never seen him show up to any Republican events. Those of you in the audience who are very engaged, ask yourself, have you ever met this guy before at any kind of a Republican event? No, nothing. So anyhow, yeah.
And I've never seen or met this gentleman back here who calls himself the conservative black preacher up until a few months ago. Yet there's a lot of information surrounding him and his misinformation campaign that he is doing on this community.
How are you going to spin all this?
So,
You're going to spin all of it. It's live stream right now.
Okay. So
Yeah, it's completely
I
live.
would like to
Completely
open it up
live,
to
bro.
any
Go watch it,
questions
man.
that any
You know what I'm
of
saying?
you might
Go
have
watch
of
it.
me, and you may ask
How are you
me
going to spin it?
anything.
Okay.
Sure. You can ask me anything that you would like on any subject. And if you could keep the questions down to like 20 seconds, that would be great.
There's a lot of spinning going on, actually.
Thank you, Bruce. Well, I got the microphone now.
20 seconds, Richard.
I do have a question, but I do want to tell you that I think a great deal of Bob Norris. He looks pretty good for being 100% disabled, too. We're both about the same age. We could probably pick them up down the block 7 days a week, plus on Sunday. But anyway, so here's my question, and there's a lot of information, right? And anybody can answer this, but even if that was true, that he was on 100% disability, receiving $180,000 a year and 50% of his tax-free, and I'm not saying it is, but even if it was, and it was legal, and as long as it was legal, I'm not sure there's anything wrong with that. But he said that's not happening. But even so, I don't know why that came up. So I don't know from a
And
person's not there anymore.
I would say 98% of our deputies that have been hired in the last 8 years all have a disability rating from the military. Every single one of them. And many of them a lot higher than the 24 or 25%. We'll get to you. We're just going to make our way around.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for showing up here tonight. Appreciate you coming in. So there's obvious with all the stuff that's been going on in the community, there has been a lot of questions, and I'd love for you, Mr. Norris, to be able to answer this for, I'm going to speak on behalf of...
Answer anything.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate that. So, obviously, you are an elected official, obviously. So, the questions that I've been asked in the community, because I'm involved in the community quite a bit, is a special deputy with police power. Is Mr. Mattare a special deputy currently?
Yes, and
Okay.
and it was on his website for 2 years. No, it was not a secret, and we put it out there publicly.
So I have some questions. So if he is a special deputy, he has access to information that you have, NCIC, if you decide to share that with him. And he said tonight that he had mentioned is involved in investigating certain individuals that. Didn't we have that tonight?
No, his
access.
He has no access. And
Well, I mean, let me see the questions and I'll ask.
he has no access.
You're not gonna filibuster this. You have them on paper. I'm happy to ask them.
He has no access. He has no access.
Okay, so how do you, an elected official, justify having a special deputy with police power with no one else in the commissioner's office? Well, first of all, I don't have police powers. We just went through that. Okay?
You have access to information.
No, I don't. We just went through that. Did you not see the public records request where I have 0 credentials?
If you read the comments in the CDA press, it says that.
No. The CDA press.
Well, that's gotta be.
I know, that is not true. That is not true. The next question is, who votes on your budgets? I did as a county commissioner. Has special access to NCIC or any other intel system with public information? No, I don't. I don't, okay? Now, what I will tell you is that I've had a finance company for 20 years, and I have access to people's credit reports and background information as far as identity and things like that. I get audited every year, okay? There is no way on the planet that you can run a business for 20 years and abuse these databases. It just doesn't happen. You know, that is one of those things that when you abuse those databases, your business gets shut down, you get sued, you know, you cannot continue to operate. You know, doing things the right way is absolutely imperative to me. I operate in a very highly regulated industry, and I'm not willing to lose my livelihood by abusing it and lose my employees, who I have fantastic employees. Well, they're questions, but they're ignorant questions.
Okay, so
inside information on county business and acts of a campaign manager. I'm not a campaign manager.
I'm going to stop this right here because when I swore Bruce in, and as I do all of our special deputies, I give them specific instructions. Sheriff's offices of our size generally have on contract a public relations firm. I am using his services, which generally would be about the $25,000 to $30,000 range. He does not have access to any protected data, period. He does not have any logins anywhere. And we just went over this. And you cannot take anything, the CD press is called hearsay. I mean, that's hearsay because that's not a direct chain of evidence. So anything that they say you have to confirm. And I think I know, you should know that because I think you do have some experience in law enforcement and you should know that. So why would you even cite the CDA press without confirming what they say?
It's a quote.
What's that?
Quote.
Quote, but okay. So I as a law enforcement officer should use a quote in the CDA press as an articulable fact?
Would that not be libel?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm disappointed because I think that you know better. All right, let's go ahead and go around.
Yeah, just a quick one, kind of tongue in cheek. When are you going to do a video with a cowboy hat?
You know, don't understand who his campaign team is, but I think they're doing a great job.
I appreciate what you've done the last 4 years, and I'd like to know what's on the agenda for the next 4 that you'd like to see our direction go.
Well, I think that 2024 has a lot of uncertainty. And come November, half of this country is going to be disenfranchised from the other half. So, do I think it's prudent that each and every one of us in this room, and is each and every one of us here in Cooney County, do I think it's a good idea for us to have an individual safety plan? Absolutely I do. Do I think it's important for all of us to have a family safety emergency plan? Yes, I do. I haven't told my wife yet, but we're probably going to buy 6 cords of wood for our wood-burning stove just to have this year, because if something happens to our electricity, we have a wooden stove. So it's important that if you run on electricity and you don't have that you have a plan to go somewhere to keep one. Do I think it's prudent that we all have 30, 60, 90 days of supplies? Yeah, I do. I think it's important. We have 10 million people that have crossed this southern border illegally, and many of them want to do us harm. Now, I believe that we're pretty safe right here in Cooney County. I do believe we are. I do not believe that we are at risk like Times Square is. I don't think we're at risk like the Space Needle is, and I don't think we're at risk like the U.S. Bank Tower in Los Angeles is. But I do believe that from a community standpoint, I don't think it's a bad idea for us to all be a little bit more prepared than what we have in the past. I think it's a good idea.
This is kind of a little bit related to what she said, but probably a little more elaboration. First, a comment, though, on the illegal immigration thing, the invasion on our country. A lot of times people, when I talk about it, because I'm very political, they say, oh, I'm safe because I'm in Idaho. And a couple of months ago, I had an experience. I'm a retired teacher, and I got a temporary job over in Post Falls, which I know is out of your area, right? But still, it's applicable. And my experience, the short story is that the first week that I worked there, a bunch of immigrants came, and I guess they had a deal or something, this big company, and the Americans had to cut short half a day because they didn't have enough work, yet the illegal people that were there that week got 10-hour days. So that was very interesting and kind of a slap in the face. So, and I recently read that we have at least over 62,000 just a week ago that are in Idaho. But my question is, I know you guys, I think, are doing the budget right now, correct? And for 2025, I know we're still thinking about 2024, but 2025, what do you see as the 3 top challenges, and how will you address those?
Okay, so our 3 top challenges are our jail population is the uncontrolled, irresponsible growth that's driving all of this stuff. It is driving everything. Our infrastructure here in Kootenai County is being stressed because of how much we're growing. And I did go to a city council. I did. I went to a city council and I said, your model for law enforcement cannot be sustained. Period. Your model for law enforcement cannot be sustained. And because all of us in Kootenai County are paying for this particular city's law enforcement services. So I obviously I have a jail. That's a concern. We're at 512 when I should be at 361. Our uncontrolled growth, and I will continue to act like I have in the past. And what I mean by that is I have done everything that I said I was going to do as it pertains to your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, and your Fourth Amendment. So when I took office, I said the first day of my 4-year term that I believe we have some Fourth Amendment arguments that stopping somebody that doesn't have a mask on is an infringement on their Fourth Amendment right. So I said, we're not going to have that conversation. We're not going to do that. I also said in that press release, I also said that we are not going to have a conversation on how many people you're going to have at your home during the holidays. That's in a press release. That was my official stance. And I also said that the Kootenai County Sheriff and the Sheriff's Office will never, ever interfere in any religious gathering. And that's impressive. I also signed a no red flag law affidavit. I am not going to enforce any type of red flag laws, period. I am not going to enforce any gun confiscation, period. Period. Now, here's what I will also tell you, that I have lobbied for legislation against giving driver's licenses to illegal aliens, and we've been successful. I have also lobbied our legislators against the fentanyl bill, which was successful. 99% of our fentanyl can be traced to the southern border. I am also in communication with our legislators to increase the penalties for criminal behavior that is likely going to be performed by people who are here illegally, such as counterfeiting driver's licenses, counterfeiting social security cards, those types of things. So I've been doing these things. I am not a Washington peace officer when they enacted red flag laws and did nothing. I am not a Washington peace officer who watched a video during COVID and said, here, that's how I protected the rights of the people during COVID. I have a real track record. I have done everything that I said I was going to do to protect your rights, whereas somebody has said, well, I didn't do it when I had an opportunity to do it, but I'll do it in the future, I promise you. That's what the contrast between me and this person that you just saw on this screen.
Bruce, you're a little bit in error. You do have police powers. You have the same police powers I have. I can arrest almost anyone in this room if they commit a misdemeanor in my presence or acknowledge a felony. There's only one person in this room that I can't arrest. Do you know who that is, Bob?
I sure do. And Duke Johnson, I love when he was on vacation.
Thank you. I didn't realize that, so thank you.
I have a comment and then a question. First of all, I don't think you make enough money for what you have to put up with.
Well, thank
I know,
you.
but
I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for the community and the organization. The politics, I'm not doing
Isn't the police report public record that they could go down to the sheriff's department and get a copy? copy of that?
Correct.
Okay,
That's
so
correct.
I don't understand what the problem is then. Because any citizen can go down and get it.
Yeah, but the problem was this particular candidate, he didn't do his homework. He put these loose connections, and this is the last thing we need from a sheriff. We don't need a sheriff who doesn't use real probable cause and articulable facts to accuse somebody of. A real sheriff uses probable cause and articulable facts and does the homework before they make an accusation.
Sheriff Norris.
Yes.
Charity Joy with the Kootenai Journal. Thanks for being here tonight. There's a new organization called the Kootenai Resilience and Stability Group, or Kootenai Stability and Resilience Group, some combination of those. Started by a pretty well-known former military figure, Brigadier General Blaine Holt. Yes, my question is, has your office, your undersheriff, or yourself had conversations with him concerning this new nonprofit? If not, will you, and do you plan on collaborating with him? Thank you.
We have, however, he wasn't there at the meeting. Yeah, he was not there at the meeting when I had my Director of Office of Emergency Management. This was with Niels Jensen and right there. So he couldn't make it. However, I do have our Director of Office of Emergency Management, myself, and the Undersheriff. I think he is speaking on the 27th. Yep, so we're scheduled to go to that. Yep.
I wonder, have you considered any legal action against this to stop it in the future for slander, misinformation, whatever, just to let the general public know where it stands?
So the legal opinion of what we have right now is once you provide a disclaimer of the allegation and they continue to do it, then as a public official, because I don't have a lot of privacy because I'm an elected official, but it's been told to me once I disclaim these and he continues, or one of his team continues, then I would. So, does that seem consistent, Mr. Bushling, if you're familiar with?
That's not my area of expertise, but yes, you're a public official, so people can have a greater latitude in the things they say about you, but they are not entitled to make statements that they know are false.
Right. So.
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I think the young man there mentioned the earlier incident where he was involved with his neighbor and their Spokane sheriffs came out. So I understand that you didn't provide that information or use your ability to get that report, but where did that report come from? How did you guys find out? How were you able to rebut that if you didn't have that report? And I understand, like I said, public people, citizens can actually go and request it. But I was just curious, is there a paper trail on where that did come from?
Yes, there is. I will be very honest with you, is that we have had a whole line of people that have contacted our team. And there are some allegations that I just don't want to touch as an elected public official. There are some things that are best left in different arenas. I have to tell you, but see, when I say it without any documentation, it's not. I feel like I'm doing the same thing that he is. But the neighbors where he used to live, they're deathly afraid of him. And no, it's interesting that they're very concerned for their safety if they were to come out and to say what type of a neighbor that Dan Wilson was. And so the team did receive that police report, but it was somebody that was a relative of Daniel's. Yeah.
Bob, I'd like to say something, because, one of the things that's kind of being alluded to between our relationship, me initially being your campaign manager back in 2020, and me now being a county commissioner, is that there's some sort of nefarious component to this. And, I guess my question for the audience, and thank you very much for coming out, is who here wants to see their elected officials fight? Raise your hand. Who wants to see that? And so what you're witnessing are these people who are trying to turn the virtue of two elected officials that get along real well and make it into a vice. There's nothing I can do, and there's nothing that the sheriff can do that's not public record. The budgets are public record. We talk about this. You know that as far as the budget goes, you know how much the sheriff's office gets. You know what my voting record is. None of this is done in secret. That my fiduciary, along with the sheriff's, is to you, the public. I have no fiduciary to him that's above you. And so it's real important to understand that when these people are out there talking about this relationship, they're trying to make a virtue a vice. But in reality, it's a virtue for you and the community. You do not want your elected officials fighting. If you want to see what that looks like, watch the Bonner County videos. Okay? There's restraining orders. There's all kinds of stuff going on up there, right? You do not want that. And so I think it's important to remember when you hear people plant these seeds, I call them FUD packers. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They spread fear, they spread uncertainty, and they try to spread doubt within this community between people like Bob and myself and other elected officials and what goes on. And you just have to recognize that for what it is, because they can't provide solid evidence of what's going on. It's all innuendo. It's all meant to plant these seeds so you go, I'm not so sure. And that's one of the reasons we had this event. It's because myself and the sheriff, we're starting to get questions. Why does Bruce have access to these databases? I'm very troubled by a county commissioner having access to these databases. Why is the sheriff doing this? These are felonies. And, at some point it starts to cause damage, and erode the trust. Like the sheriff said, you can't have the trust in the community eroded because of this fear, uncertainty, and doubt that this Dan Wilson guy has been planting among other people.
Well, I want to reiterate, I would never, ever compromise the trust that you have given me as your elected sheriff. Never, never, ever. This job's not worth compromising.
I mainly want to make a comment to all of you guys that live here in Idaho. I do not. But I am here specifically because I know Dan. He's got a stepdaughter sitting over there that's terrified of him. I know what it has done to her through her life. He has posted that he has a restraining order on her. He does not. So think twice when you're electing anyone, because you don't want him.
And just for the record, have we ever met? I don't know who you are.
No, and I came from Montana to tell you guys.
And did I ask you to come? I don't know.
No.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to
I want to ask a question, the same question that your opponent, Mr. Wilson, actually refused to answer. Can you provide, for the benefit of those in the audience that may not know you that well, could you provide an example of where you stood up for conservative principles and values?
Oh, absolutely. I did it with the FBI here that I'm supposed to have a very close relationship with. I've spent half of my career reporting to him there. But I had a audit from the FBI, and they said, hey, you failed your concealed weapons audit. And I said, well, why is that? Well, we want to have a little conversation with you. And they came in and they said this and this and this and this. You issued a concealed weapons license to all these people, and you shouldn't have done that. And I said, well, who issues the concealed weapons licenses? Is it the FBI or is it the county sheriff? And she said, well, it's the county sheriff that does. And I said, yes. And I will continue to issue a concealed weapons permit on all of these cases that they say I shouldn't have. So, I stood up for an individual's right to carry a concealed weapon in 38 states of our great nation. So, I have done everything that I said I was going to do. I did not promise you that I would do something, that I would stand up for your rights when I didn't, when I had an opportunity to do so. I've always stood up for your rights. And 2024 is going to be fairly precarious, and I will continue to do that.
Hi, Sheriff Norris. My name is Emma Foster, and I'm from way up north, voting precinct 204. And I just want to tell you that we are so happy and so pleased that you hit the fentanyl epidemic the way you have. We really appreciate it. Every time we read that's coming up Highway 95, coming across those falls, coming through Rathdrum, headed our way, we live up there. But you are pulling people over, you are arresting people, and you are removing fentanyl from our communities. And I have to say, we really, really appreciate that. It means a lot to us.
We are getting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 pills on cold traffic stops. We are seeing this fentanyl come from the southern border, impacting our community. Our fentanyl deaths are 3 times what they were 4 years ago. Overdoses, accidental overdoses, and what have you.
Yeah, Sheriff, I'd like you to address 3 other allegations that weren't addressed tonight that are being made by gamblers and surrogates and have not been quashed by them. Your LA Sheriff's Department, are you familiar with Vikings?
Yes, I am.
2, also the allegation that you're receiving monies from the various people in Los Angeles. And also address some of the secret society crap as well.
Yes. So for
Amen.
a deputy to have had a Viking tattoo, you would have had to work that station. That was called Linwood Sheriff Station. I never worked Linwood Sheriff Station. Susan, do I have any tattoos? Okay. I have a clean canvas from somebody who knows. From somebody who knows, I have a clean canvas. I have no tattoos. I've never been assigned to Linwood Sheriff Station. I was assigned to Century Sheriff Station, just so somebody say, oh, wait a minute, he lied, which we combined 2 sheriff stations together, Firestone and Linwood. And but I don't have a tattoo from that one either, and that was a different logo. But no, I do not have a tattoo. I was not a member of the Vikings, because I never worked that station. What was the second one?
The nefarious persons receiving money.
Well, I don't know, what that references. Do I have some friends that have given me money for my campaign? Yeah, but oh, you know what? I think I know what you're talking about. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. Let's say for the purpose of this conversation, I did give a donate. Oh no, you're talking about they gave me money.
Yes, I think he's referring to a person down in California who is the son of another retired deputy.
Oh, okay, yeah, you know what? That person lives here in North Idaho now. His son had some issues at one time and has corrected himself. But yeah, he's a big fan of Sheriff Bob Norris, but he was a lieutenant on the sheriff's office, but lives up here now. But as far as his son having a criminal activity from 10 years ago, so what? Yeah. And then what was okay. So, no, I am not a member of any secret society. Well, hold on a second. Hold on. I'm a member of the Eagles. Okay, I'm a member of the Eagles in the Coeur d'Alene. And they brought Susan and I up into the second story there, and we had a ceremony. I'm a member of the Micah Grange Flats. Yep. And they did a ceremony when we got accepted there. I'm a member of Coeur d'Alene Rotary. My dad was a long-time Rotarian member, and I believe they do good in the community. I am not a Freemason. I am not a Shriner. We had a series of coffee with the sheriff, breakfast with the sheriff. We had a entity reach out to us from the Masonic Lodge and says, would you like to use our community room because we have some members that would like to see a Saturday event. And I said, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. So that same community room that's used for Boy Scouts, used for startup churches, for pancake breakfasts, yeah, we used it, and we did a local coffee with the sheriff there. I'm not a Freemason. I know that 13 of the signers of the Constitution, were Freemasons. Where I put the divide, where I will not participate in something, is if there is a known criminal enterprise from that entity. So if there's a known criminal enterprise, then I'm not going to hold any types of sheriff's office events there. But for people asking me that question, I have a question for them. What other entity do you not want me to be the sheriff for? I mean, do you not want me to be the sheriff for people who belong to the Micah Grange? Do you not want me to be the sheriff? I'm the sheriff for everybody. And quite honestly, I did receive some pushback when I gave the Pride Board of Directors a meeting. And I did. I told the Pride Board of Directors, I said, I feel like I know this community pretty good. And I said, I believe that this sheriff's not going to judge you, and a majority of us aren't going to judge you. However, when you advertise for a drag show for kids, you are going to incite emotion here, and that's why we had all of that stuff that happened in 2022. And I said, that is where you're going to upset some people. So I'm the sheriff, whether you supported me or not, I'm still your sheriff. So absolutely, I did give the board of directors a meeting, and I said, hey, I believe I know this community pretty good. Don't have drag show for kids. And they didn't have those discussions. So, and then of course, why we're even allowing taxpayer money, that's a whole different conversation, But yeah, so did I get to all your questions, James?
You did.
All right. So yeah, so I'm the sheriff for everybody. Doesn't mean that if we use a facility, doesn't mean that I'm part of that entity or organization. So, I think the mic's back there.
I have a comment, not a question. I never, ever thought you were going to encroach until I met Dan Wilson. So I went into a meeting with him with an open mind, and everything that he had to say was innuendo, half truths. It just went on and on, and I don't want to be lied to. So the fact that he is not here tonight, I have a new nickname for him. It's Wimpy. Mikey Wilson. He had his chance to come and confront you, and he chose not to be here. And I think that speaks volumes. And thank you for being here.
All right, Sheriff. We know that Dan Wilson doesn't want to take a question from me. Would you be willing to take a question from one of Dan Wilson's part of his campaign, who's live streaming this in the back here? I guess he's watching it. Dan Wilson is watching it in his basement.
I don't know if he's watching.
Because he certainly was a little bit too afraid to come out here and address the accusations and provide substantiating information based upon his claims. So would you be willing to take a question from one of Dan Wilson's campaign folks?
No, because I believe that that gentleman there is somebody who promotes propaganda. He mischaracterizes the truth, and I've seen a couple of his videos, and no, I don't deem him to be a credible individual.
I don't have a question though. What about Mike Bowers running as a Republican sheriff? So how's the focus change?
Apparently, there's a comment about Mike Bauer running as a Republican sheriff. Is he even running this time? He lost in 2020.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it on.
All right.
Bring it on.
I just.
Hi, my name is Terry, and I was
This is
born
great.
and
I
raised
feel like
here
around
in
a bunch of
North
liberal
Idaho, so
Antifa people. It's like
I
Portland.
know how many corrupt sheriffs we have.
Republicans, huh?
And I've known Bob before he was elected, and he has done a fabulous job. Fabulous job. He is not corrupt, and the lies that are being told about him, I'm so glad that you put on this forum tonight, Bob, with you and Norris, because I've listened to all the lies that Dan Wilson has said, and I'm glad that all of you are here to hear it, and I'm glad that you guys put it out there and defended yourself, because so often we don't, with all the lies that are put in the press and being told. It's just, I get hits every day. So I appreciate you, I appreciate Bruce, and we need to get you elected again.
So I have a question where a little bit of collusion comes in. How do you know that Mike Bauer is running as a Republican?
I know.
What's that?
I know.
But how do you know? So there you have the collusion between Dan Wilson, Mike Bauer, who ran as an independent last time.
So, Sheriff, why don't you ask him how long he's been in the area? 1 month. 1 month. Moved from Portland.
I did.
And you're here jumping into this, and you have no idea what you're doing. You're a fool.
Okay. How long have I been here? What? 1 month? 2 months? Year? 2 years?
Just wanted to kind of give you guys a little story. Most of you know who I am. I'm Brett Surplus. I'm actually one of the candidates for District 3 County Commissioner. 4 years ago, I was in this exact same position as what Dan Wilson was. No joke. I think Bob can attest that I was probably one of his biggest adversaries. And it came down to getting wrong information from an individual. And you guys heard these guys talk about that same type of format, same type of speech come from the same person. And I figured this out quite a while ago during a conversation with Mr. Wilson and a few others, and figured out who was the puppet and who were the puppet strings. And I can tell you, when I found out as far as what was truth and what was false, I publicly came out and I apologized to this man.
You did.
There was a time where I went to the back of their meeting and Mr. Mattare called me out. And that was a whooping, let me tell you what. The one thing I will say on the event that Bob held. There was only one desk. There was 2 name tags. Mine was the smallest name tag. So someone's in charge that's not you of the name tags because they're all the same. Okay? I'm calling you out on the name tags. The other thing is I actually watched this man post a video showing his calves, and they're not glorious at all about the tattoos. You remember the video?
Oh, I remember.
Exactly.
I remember, trust me. But you know what? I gotta tell you, he did come forward and say, and I apologize. I screwed up. I was wrong.
And I can honestly tell you, being a native here, 4 generations, and after everything that he kind of went through that I threw at him, he was the first person to put his hand out and say, hey, don't worry about it. And we've been friends ever since. So, I want you guys to know that story, a lot of people know, but it changed a lot of people's opinion in the law enforcement community. And I can tell you, they all support him, they love him, and he's doing a great job. And I did have this conversation with Mr. Wilson at the video that you actually watched. I'm the one who actually filmed it and produced it. And it was very unbiased. But when I contacted and talked to him afterward, I told him that 2 things were going to happen. That 1, he was going to probably lose the election, and 2, he was going to alienate himself from the community. And it wasn't a good idea, being new, and he did not want to listen to my words. So Dan, I'm hoping you're watching tonight, and I just want you to know that I gave him the best advice I could, and I think that at any point in time, I'm living proof that this man will turn around and shake your hand and let bygones be bygones. So we pray for you. I hope the best for you, but this is our sheriff.
I'm sure a lot of you know that you can access who has filed, and currently, as of today, for County Sheriff, you have Justin Nagel, Independent, Bob Norris, Republican, Kyle Woodward, Independent, Dan Wilson, Independent, and John Mike Bauer, Republican, that has filed today.
Okay. Well,
you're welcome.
There you go. The cutoff is tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
Hi, my name's Christian. I'm not really in politics and all this and that, but kind of affiliated, do the whole stuff with Dan. My fiance is the stepmother, and way before any of this stuff started, I've heard horror stories of the stuff that's gone on for years, from when she was like 6, 8 years up to 15 years old. I've got documents that are prove it all, neighbors, this and that. The guy is a narcissistic, you know the word. And he's just, his lies, and you can see by the videos of how he talks and he gets angry. It's just, he's not a good person, just like your God once stepped up, said something. The guy's just not a good guy. We don't really need him in our community. He's not a native. I'm a native, born here, Idaho blogger. Silver Valley, Coon County, everything. But that type of person we just don't need in our community. Thank you.
Have you ever met him? Before?
Associate with him? I've only met him one time.
Nosworthy's, as you were walking out.
Yeah, we went there and we were walking out, and we went up and just congratulated him. He's been a great sheriff. I will admit, when you first were applying, I heard you were from California.
I understand. I get that a lot.
You did an amazing job, and I'm really proud of you. You do a lot of great for our community, and I really want you to be our sheriff.
I'm Idahoan inside and out, I promise you.
You're great, and my aunt talks great about you. My aunt's chief cleaner of Notcham, and she likes him, so.
Exactly right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
How much longer would you like to take questions?
You know what, let's do 2 more questions and then we'll call it a night. What do you
Okay.
think?
All right, I have a woman back here.
The first time we ever met you was when you were running the first time. And we went to a meeting that we had no idea what was going on here about them wanting to bring a facility in to either CDA or to Hayden.
A reentry program.
Reentry program for convicts that had about 9 months left on their sentences. And I think a lot of people in this room don't have any idea that you worked to stop that. So my question is, would you please let everybody know what you did?
Yes, so we had some legislators that approved the funding for a prison re-entry center here. And we rallied our community and we had a bunch of petitions and we were able to stop that reentry center from becoming a reality here. I'm in a different position now with Josh Tawald. He's the director of prisons and parole and what have you, and he cites that situation pretty vividly, that this community does not want a reentry center. And the state does a horrible job at rehabilitating our inmates. And they do a horrible job. We have testimonies on a 15-year sentence. They wait until year 14, say, hey, you know what, we're going to get you ready for society. No, we should start that in month 1. That's where we should start that. So it's not that I'm against rehabilitating our prison population. The state's not the best place. In fact, the state's the worst
But they
agency to do
also,
it.
it was also an honor system. It wasn't locked doors. It was an honor system for them to come and go with the
Possibly go wrong.
Couldn't really hear that, but honor system, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Bob, for being here. And thank you, everybody else, for being here. As you can tell, I'm a supporter. I just wanted to make a comment about the California thing. We just came back from Boise. The Idaho Republican women went down to Boise last Monday and Tuesday. And Phil McCrane gave us a presentation on his new website that has a dashboard that is idahovotes.gov or something. And he has put together statistics about the people that are coming here and that are registering here in Idaho. And the majority of people that are fleeing the states, and you can look at it by state, by county, by city, by everything, every type of search pattern that you would like, are majority percentage Republicans. They are coming here because they are fleeing the woke, disastrous policies of their blue states. So people are coming here so that we can have the lifestyle that we want and the conservative values that we want, that our sheriff now has and protects our rights for. So I just, if you are interested, go to that website. It's fantastic. It goes back years that you can tell how many people have left California, come to Idaho. How many people have left Washington and come to Idaho? How many people are fleeing these blue states? So we want to keep our way of life here. This is what we need to do, is keep elected conservative politicians, or not politicians.
All right, I think, ma'am, do you have one? Do you have...
I didn't have a question.
All right, well, this will be our last question.
He's been busy going on with things.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your arm up.
So my question is a little bit different than what's being presented here. It has nothing to do with the issues that you're discussing.
Bring it.
But I am curious, Ms. Eva Foster, I'm not sure if she's still here. Thank you for that question regarding fentanyl and the drug and how he's combating that. I would like to know, and it's just a curiosity, what, aside from the drug issues that she mentioned,
would you say is the biggest challenge for you and your department with regard to criminal activity, and how are you responding to that?
So the drugs or the substance abuse is what's motivating all of our criminal activity. So if we resolve the substance abuse, then we will have less property crime. If you do live in a sheriff's territory, Hayden or the unincorporated area or State Line Village or Athol, if you live anywhere, crime is down 16% over last year. However, I have some concern over our property crime. We're pretty fortunate here in Kootenai County that if you go to Costco or Freddie Meyer, the likelihood of you getting robbed when you leave the store to go to your car, non-existent. Very, very slim. So, but property crime as it pertains to leaving things in your car, your home. I used to not lock my doors at home. We used to leave everything open. However, we lock them now. I think that it's probably prudent. So we're looking at things, our property crime. I will tell you something that's on my radar also, is that I'm seeing more activity with some outlaw motorcycle gangs. I'm starting to see Vagos flying their colors, and I'm starting to see HA, Hells Angels, flying their colors, which I didn't see 4 or 5 years ago.
With the drug.
And generally, they're generally involved in a criminal enterprise, whether stolen motorcycle parts, stolen vehicles, and or methamphetamine is generally their drug of choice. So that's kind of on my radar also. But property crime is where our problem is. All right.
Could I add something?
You close it out.
Well, I want you to close it out.
Okay.
But I think one of the things that you should also discuss, just for a second, is that your first 2 years, you were plugging leaks. You had so many staffing issues because people were leaving faster than we could actually hire. And that actually really affects your ability to make a difference in the community as far as fighting crime.
100%. That first year and a half, 2 years, we were hemorrhaging. We were losing people left and right. And I did not have a understanding board of county commissioners. I tried to tell them time and time again that law enforcement professionals, whether sworn or not, we're not plug and play in a month. Dispatchers, it takes us about 2.5 years to get a dispatcher so they can perform without supervision. A deputy sheriff in the jail takes about 2 years. A deputy sheriff out in the field takes about 4 years before they're working independently. And lowering the risk to all of us. It was not a good time for that first 2 years. I was hemorrhaging. Bruce came on board and he says, hey, he goes, I want all of this data. I want all of this stuff. And we were giving Bruce information such as how much money we were spending on advertising for recruiting, on how much time it was taking for recruiting, and giving the Board of Commissioners, and with Commissioner Brooks also, giving them all of this information. And then we all sat down, and Bruce had a PowerPoint and says, okay, over the last, is it 8 years, 10 years?
2010 to 2017.
So in this 7-year period, it cost us $3.5 million to train 29 deputies.
Well, it was just under 106,000 to recruit and train a deputy to the point that their field training officer could sign off. That doesn't mean that they're on their own and they're capable, but that they're actually driving a cruiser alone. But just under 106,000. And then we looked at Between 2010 and 2017, we had hired 62 patrol deputies, and within 5 years, 33 of them left. And so that added up, that 33 times 106 adds up to about $3.5 million of your taxpayer money that evaporated, that went to other agencies, and those agencies got the benefit of that training and that experience. And you as a taxpayer, a county taxpayer, lost that. And so that's the business case of being cheap. It's called the high cost of being cheap, because the deputies, after 5 years, were earning $22,000 less per year than a Coeur d'Alene police officer. Same exact work, $22,000 less a year. And Bob kept trying to emphasize that to the previous board. $22,000 a year is an extra $100,000 in mortgage that you can afford, of house that you can buy. That's a big deal for a young person. So it's just that kind of an analysis. And ultimately what happened, and this is from the sheriff himself, he advocated not for pay beyond Coeur d'Alene, not for pay equal to Coeur d'Alene, but for pay that is 3% behind Coeur d'Alene. So you're not even paying a deputy equal to Coeur d'Alene. You know, and that's how you fix these problems, because you in the community, you deserve to have a good public safety department. And I don't believe that living in a conservative community, any of you would support underfunding our public safety. I mean, if you do, raise your hand. I'd love to meet you. I'm sure the sheriff would too. So it's just being able to make the business case. And that's where the virtue is, by having a county commissioner who can work well with your sheriff. That's the virtue. That's how we solve problems for the community, working together. It's not a vice, it's a virtue. You know? And I'd just like to say one thing and then hand it over to you. Just when you drive home tonight, I really want you to think about, how would Dan Wilson, who moved here 3 years ago, know whether or not the sheriff offered a special deputy situation to another commissioner? How would he know that? Who would give him that information? Another commissioner. How would Dan Wilson know about videos from 2020 with Bob Norris when he only lived here 3 years ago? Who gives him that information? So ask yourself that when you're driving home, because that's really what I think you need to understand, is who gets behind somebody who's throwing these kinds of accusations out of criminal intent, criminal conspiracy, and so forth. That's what this community needs to know. We need good people in this community who are in positions of leadership, because that's what serves you the best. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming here tonight, and I will close with this, is that I had never met Dan Wilson. I have been listening to this junk that he has been spewing for the last 90 days from mostly third parties, because I don't listen to it, you know. And when he started the criminal allegation of what you saw here tonight, I said, that's enough. Because I do not want you to have any lack of confidence or lack of trust with me or the sheriff's office. And that's when I said, enough is enough. And then, while we were here, I thought we would point out all these other lies that he is either saying or on his website. So, Dan didn't show up here tonight. All hat, no cattle. But there's no cattle in it. Dan Wilson is all hat, no cattle. Because when he could have stood up for the rights of the citizens of Washington, He elected not to. But he says that he will in the future if he's your sheriff. Well, if he didn't do it back then, and he didn't come out like many peace officers did to say, hey, I'm not going to enforce that and I'm not going to do that. He didn't do that. He was asked, where can one go to show that you stood up against giving driver's license to illegal aliens? Where can one go to show that you stood up when they enacted red flag laws? He said he didn't do anything. And he showed a video that he protected the rights, supposedly, of the residents of the state of Washington by allowing an individual to dance in a park in an open air without a mask. He didn't stand up for your rights, and he's not going to stand up for your rights in the future, because the best indicator of how somebody is going to perform in the future is how they performed in the past. And Bruce has
one question, because part of this show your proof form was that if Dan Wilson, if he'd even shown up, if he'd shown up and actually was able to prove any of his allegations, you were going to give $1,000 to a charity. And so I want to ask the question, are you willing to still give that $1,000, even though Dan Wilson was too afraid to show up here and provide the proof for the allegations he made on you?
From our personal account, not from our campaign account, Susan and I will donate $1,000 to our local charity. Yes. That's from our personal account.
Hey, Sheriff, I'll throw another 20 in there for you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for coming. Appreciate your support. If there's any shirts and stuff back, we appreciate your support on that. And apparently I have an opponent now, so let's get the campaign trail going.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
I wanted to meet you real quick.
Yes.
My name's Sharon. I know
I'm
they give
still
you...
live streaming.
Oh, you are?
I am still live streaming.
Oh, okay.
No, I can mute it. Just let me mute it. I'll mute it. Okay, you guys. Tonight, didn't I? Oh, that's so good. Good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. So I mean, you heard what you needed. We'll give credit in case they come back and listen. Bruce Mattare told me I could come in, which is a commissioner. He told me I could come in and live stream, long as I didn't basically act up or be disruptive. I'm told I'm being accused for myself for spreading misinformation. So I think I went to a Lincoln Day dinner, I'd tell you the Republican stuff. I don't know. I remember, so here's the thing. I remember in 2020 when this stuff happened with the Republican Party, that many Republicans said that they were dropping and switching to independent. I can see why. You can completely see why. So no, Dan, and then so regarding Dan showing up tonight, obviously he didn't show up. I'm sure he did listen to the live stream. I'm sure he was listening. But the whole thing it's interesting. It was very, very interesting. I'm just saying, for when I think about conservative, I'm not Republican. I'm conservative. There's a difference. There's a difference between being a Republican and being a conservative. I don't claim to be a Republican. We've seen it time and time again. Same playbook, same handbook. It felt like I was in Portland tonight. Honestly, it felt that good. It felt like I was back home. Felt like Antifa was in there. Yeah, you know how that feels. It felt great. It was a good feeling. Republicans going after another Republican the way they do, that's Antifa moves all day. So it was great. It felt like home. So no, it was fine. That there was he listened. I didn't have no question. I had a comment which had to do with Mike Bauer, so I didn't really have no question. I guess the question was kind of, since Mike Bauer, another person, has entered the race, basically will the focus change from Dan? But anyway, he did give me free publicity tonight. The sheriff gave me free. Here's the thing too, you think about this, back in Portland and probably other major towns, when do you get firsthand publicity from the sheriff? So that was kind of cool. So thank you, Sheriff Norris, for doing that. But yeah, at first they didn't want me to come in there. I guess I'm some sort of disruptor. So they didn't want me to come in at first, and then I made a call, and then not to say that the call worked or anything, but then Commissioner Bruce Mattare came up and asked me if I wanted to come in. I said, yeah, if I live stream. And, he agreed, and then asked me as long as I didn't interrupt. So, which I never do. That's not my style. I don't interrupt. You guys know that. People who've been who know me, who've been following me for longer than 1 month. I got accused of being where I'm at for 1 month. That was great. That was an accusation said out loud to people, and I'm sure many people will believe that and listen to it. But I let it be. So, anywho, I'm not a spokesperson for Dan, but I guess it looked like I was running for sheriff tonight. I'm not a spokesperson for Dan. So just because I like someone doesn't mean I'm a spokesperson for that person. So, anywho, Dan is his own man. He can do his own thing. So, and I'm sure it's not done with. And it sounds like the sheriff's race is heating up. Sounds like there's 4 other people involved. I think another independent, a couple more Republicans. So it's going to be interesting to see if the focus changes. And then at the same time, they're probably all going to be going for Bob Norris. So I wonder if he's going to be, Bob, this is for you, and Mattare, if you guys are going to be doing more of these sort of things like this tonight, because now it's like four other people are coming for your position. So there's going to probably be even more things that are either said or questions that are being raised and asked about. So it's not just going to be Dan. It's going to sound like it's now at this point it's going to be other people. And I don't, again, stuff that they were showing, you know, here's the thing about things like that, you know, and
That's a freaking coward.
I told you guys it's like Antifa up here. I told you it's like Antifa. Republican Antifa. I'm telling you, that's what it's like up here. This lady just walked by and said, Dan's a freaking coward. It's like Republican Antifa. It's crazy. Oh, man. So because you like someone, dang, folks. I lost my train of thought. That was a good one. Dan's a coward. So, lost my train of thought. Anyway, so I guess what I was going to say, Dan is his own person. He's going to do what he wants. I'm not a spokesperson for Dan. I like him. There's other people like him. Those people, I guess, didn't show up tonight. There's other people like Dan. I'm not the only one. I just walked into the den of thieves, or not a den of thieves. I walked into the lion's den. Excuse me, not a den of thieves, but I walked into a lion's den because I guess I have some sort of big influence. So I guess it is what it is. I have some sort of big influence on people. I didn't know my reach was that big. But again, here's what it is. So let me get out of here, you guys. Appreciate you guys for watching. I mean, it wasn't really for me. It's the talk of the town right now. But it looks like things might get even more interesting now. So, and who wrote this? Here's a good point. Being from Portland gives you the unique ability to see it better than people who haven't been around it, and it's very true. It's very true because I'm getting people saying, "Oh, you're not from here. You don't know things up here," which I don't. But I can see the writing on the wall. I can see things. I have discernment. So that's the thing. Especially since God walks with me, and the Spirit of God I have within me, I can see things. I have discernment, which God gives His children. I'm a child of God, so I have discernment. I can see things. I may not have it all figured out, but there's things that are discerning, and I can see things. So that's the difference. And being from Portland, I can completely see things. And the place up here hasn't had no fight. They haven't had a fight. It's been easy going for them. And so when I can see some things, when things seem sketchy to me, I'm going to talk about it. It's not an accuse, I'm just going to talk about it. Things seem sketchy to me. But again, tonight we did hear from the stage, you guys heard from the stage, that Sheriff Norris is not a Mason. You did hear that. But again, what is FOP? You guys look at what FOP is. Fraternity Order of Police. Look at the symbolism on the FOP and see if there's a correlation or a match. That's all I'm going to say. So, you can do the rest. So, God bless you guys. I will talk to you soon.